Now, the first subject that I intended originally for the last month was that of the of divine messengership, which of course dovetails some with the Christian mythos of Jesus Christ, but which also extends beyond that. So let me say something about that. The reason for the esoteric tradition accepting the teaching of divine messengership, whether it be, let's say, among the avatars of India or the prophets in other traditions or any, is mainly the fact that according to the esoteric teachings, we all come forth, and the entire world and the entire galaxy and whatever else you can think comes all forth ultimately from the same source. This is a cause of some misunderstandings here and there. One of them being that people have construed this teaching, which is definitely present already in the early theosophical literature. They have construed it as some sort of a unificatory notion wherein all is one, all is the same, and I have heard that say many times. Well, when we have such categorical statements in any teaching, then it's time for us to look up and wake up, because it is evident that we are dealing with a hyperbole, with an overstatement. Yes, we can say that all things are one in an ultimate metaphysically ontological sense of being. We can say all of these things, but it is still somewhat hollow. And so we need to pick these things apart. But in any event, let us say, in the esoteric teachings, particularly in the secret doctrine, we find a good deal of evidence, a lot of statements to the effect that everything comes from the same place. But on the other hand, it is affirmed that there are a great many processes, a great many situations that take place once the original material, as secret doctrine has them, of the ever forthcoming excuse me, I'm a little weak tonight. In any event, you remember probably in the first stanza of John of the Secret Doctrine, if you have looked at it recently, where it says that the eternal flame comes forth from its original source. So when we are looking at that, then we need to keep in mind how that relates to all the subsequent developments. So it is definitely to be affirmed from an esoteric point of view that as the beautiful poetic stanzas of John say in the Secret Doctrine, that the ever, let's see, how does it, the eternal flame that has come forth from the source. I am transliterating some of it, had stirred again had slept again for 7 eternities, and then it wakes up. So that there is, let's say, a unitary matrix out of which everything comes, and that needs to be recognized. And subsequent developments in the cosmology of the tradition all depend on that to a great extent. Because if we ourselves have come out of that strange, never-ceasing eternal matrix, then that may need to be paid attention to. On the other hand, if that is not the case, then we may look for something else. So what we have here now is that is when you hear a lot of statements like that, even in the New Age literature at the present time, and so all is one, all is one. Well, these things are, these things have to be, one has to take a second look at. So maybe in an ultimate ontological sense, in terms of their indwelling essence, which often has been called the divine life, which I don't like so much because a flea has life. And somehow I don't cherish very much being in the same category as a flea or anything of that sort. So, this is the great problem with these esoteric and related doctrines, that on the one hand they convey great and important truths, on the other hand they can be egregiously misunderstood. And that's a problem with everything, every teaching that has a pantheistic base. Pantheistic means all God, pantheos. Pan is also the God of nature, the pantheos. But so in any event, we have to pay attention of what are we really dealing with here. And what we are dealing with is an ultimate result of which we are ourselves. Here we sit, the descendants and the emanations many eons ago of the divine substance, and look at us. What are we doing with it? We try to do what we can with our human nature, but it becomes difficult and onerous and frequently misunderstood. So what we need to keep in mind, that while we ourselves, even humans, we don't have to go any further. You can exclude for the time being dogs and cats and platypuses or whatever, we have come from the same source. Okay, that's just a general statement. Now the question is what happens thereafter. For reasons of its own, the source seeks us, wants to be reunited with us. And when we have highly unusual spiritual experiences, and very often these are in the nature of our, by the Bible and scriptures like that often use familiar names, our father, our mother. In some religions it actually were wiser and called it our parents. For instance, there is a Japanese religion, a so-called new religion, because unlike Shinto and Buddhism, the old religions, it started in the 19th century, just like Theosophy and things of that. It's called Tenrikyo. Now, I'm not about to want to convert you to Tenrikyo, but I came across it at a certain point, and I became very friendly with the folk there. Yes, they have a beautiful temple down at the very end of First Street. So if you keep going south First Street and then turn to the left, especially if it's on a Sunday, you will hear the great drums, boom, boom, boom. And those are the drums that call to the service of Tenrikyo. And Tenrikyo is a greatly abbreviated, a greatly shortened esoteric teaching, to the effect that there is the one who is called Tenryo no Mikoto in Japanese, and from him everything comes. And that we pay attention to him and we pay attention to what he wants. And the main scripture which concerns the creative deity. Let me see. At one time I used to chant these things because I was very friendly with the Tenryo. I never convert to anything, but I'm interested in many things, and I will not reject anything that looks interesting to me. Why? Because really, in a way, I think that's what we are here on earth, to be interested by interesting things, and then, if at all possible, to draw meaningful conclusions from these data that we gather for ourselves. And so, let me see if I can really still recollect a little of what I learned in those days. This is how every grand ceremony of Tenrikyo takes place. Ashikyo haro te tasuketanai Tenryo no Mikoto. And boom, 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 the great drums, you know. And I just repeated 9 times. And after that is the recitation from the scripture. Their scriptures originated, that's also quite interesting, with a simple farmer's wife in Yamato province who was contacted by a great being. And she tried to find out who that great being was, and he called himself Tenryo no Mikoto, the king of the highest heavens. So it was not a very modest deity, shall we say. But in any event, then he put forth a sort of very Eastern Gnostic type revelation of the how out of him, out of Tenrikyo into Mikoto come all the various worlds and all the various beings, and that we are all really, for that reason, his children. Now, not to leave you hanging, what happened then was that she was a farmer's wife, very simple people, tilling the earth, and then the family council gathered, and she told them, look what happened to me. This great big deity came and wants me to become its temple. So what do you all say about this? Because she wouldn't accept that without the family's consent. Well, the family's consent was not forthcoming. They said, we want you as our grandmother and our mother and our aunt and so forth, but we don't want you as the vessel of a strange god whom we don't know. So they said no to her. So she said, all right, if that's your judgment. So she went back, but then all kinds of things happened. She started becoming sick and sicker. Finally, she hardly could walk. And she said, Tenryo no Mikoto is displeased, and he's going to make me sick if you don't allow me to become his vessel. And then finally the family side said, go ahead and do whatever he wants to do. And then he dictated these scriptures, which are sort of archetypal and religious in tone. And by the time I used to give speeches for them, interpreting their scriptures on every fourth Sunday, which is the monthly big holiday, and they appreciated my speeches very much. And in the end, two of the priests there, whom I knew better, they were really convinced that I should go with them to Japan, where in old Japan, near, this is further north than Kyoto, is Tenri city, as they call it. That is their city, all their temples are there. They have a hospital there, they have a school there, every doggone thing. I said, if you come there, we'll help you for a few months to get accomplished to everything. We get you a wife, can you imagine? And all of that. And then you can be one of our ministers in Tenri City. And I said, well, I appreciate your confidence and all of that, but I have some involvements of a spiritual nature here already, and they are not exactly the same as Tenrikyo. I have a great deal of respect for you, but I don't really want to, so to say, join in there. And that's why I stayed here, and the Tenrikyo priests, they even came to a place where I was working. I had my civilian work and occupation. I was working as a representative of a New York X-ray company, believe it or not. And so one of the ministers came. He came to my office in the daytime, and he said, Hoeller-san, you have to come with us to Japan. And I said, thank you for your confidence and all that, but I'm not going to. And so that was the end of that. But let's say, the reason I mentioned this, primarily is because if you look even at some of these comparatively recent religious groups that appeared in the world, you find a common denominator, that there is a one, from the one comes several, from the several come the many, and that it is an emanational sequence. It is not at all unlike that of the Kabbalah, for instance, or even of some of the Mahayana Buddhist pantheons, but it indicates that out of the one came many deities, and that these deities are concerned with and wish to help the humans, and if the humans cooperate with them, then that help will be accomplished. Rather simple teaching to that extent. Now, in any event, so what we have here, these are all devolutions. I don't say involutions, don't say evolution, devolutions, really of esoteric teaching. From the one come the many, because of the 7 Tohashira in Tenrikyo, which are rather like the Sephirot, and then through these 7 divine hierarchies proceeds the divine consciousness, the divine life onto earth, and when they begin to awaken to who they really are and how they can return, then let's say their job on earth here was probably considerably accomplished. So why I bring all this up, I'm not really sure, except that old people are rather good at remembering things. And this is one of my memories when I was attempted to be roped into another matrix, which, however, when you peel all the aspects away, is not that different from the one that I'm in right now. But now here we are, and so when we look at it in the perennial Gnostic context, then we always find that yes, all existence and all beings on this earth have come forth from the same source, from the same cause. And now why would that have happened? Way up in the highest heavens, there are certain beings, primarily 2, one of them envisioned as masculine, the other one as feminine, and they bring forth, they emanate, they pour forth their essence in order to revive those who have gone forth before, and that they might recover their original nature. And in due course of time, after undergoing various processes, they shall return to the source as well. Now, the reason that I brought this up, I think primarily, is because it is within this ongoing process of outpouring the message, outpouring the invitation to heaven, if we might call it so poetically. Involved in this is the message of the esoteric tradition. The esoteric tradition really And I have looked into many aspects of it, many ways in which have been enunciated. When boiled down, is all about this. You have come from the eternal, to the eternal you shall return. Now you can do it with some skill, some mastery, and some help, or you can struggle about it on your own and wait till it takes you forever. So which one do you want? You want to come home or you want to hang out? Very childish expressions, but those are the ones. So from all of these various sources I concluded that the best way is to find such ways as we can find which are destined to take us home. Because we have a deeply seated feeling-toned element within us that says, you got to go home. You got to go to your parents. You've got to go to a greater, a richer, a more insightful, a more loving, a more compassionate life than you will find here. Now, if you don't respond to that and says, oh no, I want to be a US Marine instead, or whatever the case may be, well then obviously you are not going to get much higher than that. But if you are sensitive to the impulse which draws you onward and wants to bring you to the highest possible location of your being, then you listen to that and you do something about it to the extent that doing something about it is available to you. And maybe that's a little bit excessive, but if you look at various religions, then in most of them you will find elements just of that nature. Whether it's Islam, or whether it's Christianity, whether it's Hinduism, all of them is that what they are really doing is come to us and we'll take you home. Now, of course, there are details, and that some of the details, depending on the locale and so, are not all that joyous and enticing, because let's say in a lot of religions, even in the same religion, you will have some gradations of the religion which are very noble and very loving and very kindly, and then right side by side with them is Mother Kali with her Tuggy, at least at a certain historical point, coming with their silk towels, sacrificing to Kali, because they are convinced that Kali Ji would like that. You know, this is one of the big Kipling poems that was made into a movie also. Is it The Charge of the Light Brigade, or one of the others, where they are confronted with the Tuggy, the Kali worshippers, and find them in a temple. In any event, let's say, not everything that you find in every tradition, esoteric or exoteric, is necessarily ethically or whatever other term we may choose, really good. And some of it can be very rough. I consider it somewhat rough to be garroted in order to be sacrificed to Kali. So I don't know when I die in that fashion, whether Kali, the goddess, would come to me and say, "Oh, thank you making that sacrifice for me." And those things are all kind of a little bit peculiar, shall we put it that way. And when they involve human sacrifices, they become even more peculiar. In fact, it is quite likely that archaic humanity, that is old humanity coming out of the beginning, was quite involved with the issue of sacrifice. And that is why it is my hope that some time from now, we will be able to dig out our copy of that, to me, very exciting old movie that is called The Eye of the Devil. As I mentioned, there is no eye in it, there is no devil in it, so I don't know what it's all about. But any event, a very fine movies with David Niven and the beautiful young actress who was killed by the Manson gang. That was in fact, her last movie that she played in. And what it is based on, not to tip you off, because then you're not going to come to it when we show it, it is on a contemporary application of the spirit of sacrifice, which in fact the wicker man is also, because the wicker man is being sacrificed. But the wicker man is a little more dramatic and more glamorized, shall we say, than this one. So I hope you'll come and see it, because I could comment on it, I think, in a meaningful fashion, but it documents the survival, which is, after all, possible, although not very likely, the survival of the ancient sacrificial principle, even to the point of human sacrifice in the human race. And I think it's very sensitively and very beautifully done, and I'll feel qualified, I think, whenever we put it on, to comment on it in some meaningful fashion. But it always indicates that one way or the other, I mean, to get sacrificed, have your throat cut or something like that, or have your, oh, that's a particularly nice one, have your heart torn out of your chest on an Aztec pyramid, you know. It's a great admiration of the Native American culture, you know. Not when they do it to me, buddy. When somebody else does it, maybe. But in any event, you know, there are all kinds of modalities in which these sacrifices were performed, and all kinds of things that accede to them. But the important thing is that no matter how primitive, no matter how bloodthirsty, let's say, these rites might be, and certainly a lot of the American Indian rites, especially of South and Central America, have been of that sort. I mean, I wouldn't want to be dragged up on one of the Aztec pyramids and have my beating heart torn out. No. Do that to somebody else. You know. So anyway, but anyway, the sacrificial principle was there. Now, The sacrificial principle is just a crude and ultimately perhaps degenerated and cruel manifestation of what? Of sending somebody back home. The open heart surgery, the religiously motivated open heart surgery, the heart is torn out and the sacrifice has been made. Now I certainly wouldn't advocate either in a motion picture or otherwise for any of us to get too involved in that kind of a tradition. It's a degenerate form of an ancient tradition, which is of interest, but I wouldn't want to practice it. But now what we still need to keep in mind, what the sound, the voice that resounds through the universe, everywhere, from the tiniest bug to the royal eagle and to the lion is the same. Home, home, home. The hand reaches out from heaven and says, here, come to me. I will show you where you really belong. I will show you who you really are. Come with me. And then, of course, if you are a good argumentative mother, then you will say, all right, but then why in the heck did you send me here in the first place? You know, if all it is that I just suffer here and go through all of this mess and so forth, and then you say, come on back, buddy, and you'll pull me up on top of the pyramid or somewhere, and that's it. So, you know, there are many aspects of these things. It's very easy to romanticize them. But behind the romance and behind the struggle and things like that, there is the underlying fact that something, including ourselves, now I'm not degrading you into a thing, but that something has come forth from somewhere, sometime, right? And after myriads of years of struggling in an alien land, it is ready to go home. But to assist it by that is pretty difficult, because what has passed for spirituality up to that time, well, you know, it's there, but it's not very much help. And we know, as a matter of police records, that there are human sacrifices being made today. I'm not trying to malign anybody, but I don't know, I haven't been in that neighborhood lately, but I know places where I bet you bottoms to dollar that at least there are good recruiting grounds for human sacrifices. So, you know, these things exist because they're ancient archetypes and they continue to function. But on the other hand, there are, just like in the Kabbalah, there is the white pillar and the black pillar, the two pillars before the Temple of Solomon, Boaz and Jachin, and those who made fun of the Kabbalah used to call them Boaz and Jackass. You don't have to laugh about that, but if you do, it's welcome. So in any event, it's there. The principle is there. We are being called home. We are being called home even at the cost of the sacrifice. The sacrifice doesn't have to be a blood sacrifice, but it has to consist at least to a major extent in the desire and the willingness of the human to return to its source, to recognize its own nature, to realize that to truly be ourselves, we have to become God. Now I know that's a very loud-mouthed kind of a statement, and you can use it in various other ways. But now that being the case, then where does the esoteric tradition, which is not so likely to cut out your heart on the top of the pyramids, where does it come in? It comes in when the humans have reached a certain level of conscious development where they sense that something has to be done. I have to give up my lower nature in order to reach the higher nature. I have to rejoin my celestial home. I am being awaited by those whom poetically we may call our parents, but who are the source of our life, our love, our consciousness, our desire. And when we make contact with such a matrix, then the door is opening, sometimes slowly and sometimes not so slowly, to another realm of consciousness, which is our original home and our ultimate destiny, and where for the first time in millions and millions of years, for the first time we are likely to be happy. Likely to be happy. We tried this, we tried that. We tried this church, we tried that temple. We tried this political leader and that political. We tried them all. And it was never right. But there is something that is right. And it draws us on and it says, to me, to me, to me. You are mine. You have been mine, you are mine, and you will be mine. So come, come. And the people who express that in various ways, in various ages, are the Blavatskys and various other great gurus and so forth who have touched that and who have received the command, come on, Guruji, help these poor unfortunate people to get higher, to come home. And if the Guru is any good, then that's what he is going to do. So now to apply this mythos, because do take it mythologically. And of course the trouble with mythology is that, as the rationalist would say, it ain't true. Well, it's a rationalist who doesn't speak very good English, but in any event, but it is true. And the great truths of life, and I don't want to scare you, but in whatever direction, the great alchemical truths in life are terrible. They are terrible particularly because when you encounter them, they strike terror in your heart. It's not simple, it's not easy, it's not joyous, it's not the angels are carrying to heaven you, hallelujah. No, there are all sorts of in between. But it is there, and its ultimate destiny is marvelous. It is marvelous because it consists of the effective re-invoking of your memory of true strength, of true health, of true happiness, of a true union with ultimate reality. So if you ask yourself, this is just a little mythological excursion, why did Blavatsky incarnate in Yekaterinoslav in Russia? Why? Because somehow, as a little baby already, she became aware that she had something to do, and that what she was doing is going to help thousands and perhaps millions to go home, to be really themselves. Now, of course, it doesn't happen just like that. She was a thaumaturg, shall we say, a miracle worker, but not of that sort. For instance, she would arrive she would be traveling in old Russia after having traveled in other places. And she came to one of the country houses where her relatives lived. Went back in and said hello, the children and people all gathering around her. And she said, oh my God, here are all these children and they didn't bring them anything. You know, this I can testify to, because I had occasions when my aunts would come, my mother's sisters. After all, she had 8 of them, would come, and then I chopped up to them and say, Lady brought, that was my magic word. Have you brought me anything? And the mother said, oh no, bad lady didn't bring anything. Oh my God, what can we do? So then they rushed off and came back a couple of hours later and brought me some gift. So, you know, that was very much a habit. When they were children, you went and you gave them something. You tried to keep everybody happy. And that is the sign how a young teenager, Blavatsky and so, went visiting the relatives. She had these magic tricks that she could do. And the magic tricks, in turn, would make those who were, as now they have that funny word, gifted. Have you been gifted with anything? Really very weird word, but you know, when you've been gifted with powers of this sort, then you can come and bring them a baby doll, a toy soldier, a toy dinosaur or something of that sort. Why? Because your powers have extended at least to that end. And it can happen. It can happen. Sometimes it may consist in something being moved from one place to the other. Sometimes it may be being moved from another place than this one. I have seen, it's not that big a deal if you are with the right people. I have seen physical objects transported through the air for many distances, and then placed down in front of me. I And the person who was doing it said, well, you know, I learned how to do this thing, but I wouldn't advise you to do the same thing. These are things that can be done, but they are not important, and they are good for entertainment sometimes. So there are all kinds of possibilities. There are roads and side roads and diverting paths which one may walk. Because ultimately this kind of raw magic, ultimately what is it good for? In this case it was good for the magician, the magus, having shown me that it can be done. Well, thank you so much. What good has it done me? I don't think much. But on the other hand, it can remind you of something else. It can remind you that you're not of this world. It can remind you that you are from somewhere else. You belong to somewhere else. And in actuality, you are someone else than all of these things in. And so that is why I have set it in my dotage, my real old age, as one of my objectives, to try to re-propagandize the present representatives of the esoteric tradition, among which I consider the Theosophists as being the most serious and most devoted to reach the high road, to mount the right steps. Don't get stopped by anything else. Don't get stopped by occult phenomena. That was Blavatsky's great difficulty. Here were all these bloody spiritualists. And now don't take that as a put down by myself. I have attended spiritual seances. Some of the more dull activities of my life. If you have attended some of them, it's the same with you, but something else. Something shines, something radiates, something penetrates through all this. And that something is something else. It's not anything here. It's not like you and I. It's not like our interests and our ways of going about things. But you know what? It is more real. It is real. It is the really real, the totally, the ultimately real. And if you have as much as touched the hem of the garment, as the biblical phrase would have it, of the real, you will never mistake anything that is not real for it. And so here we are, drawn to what was it now, the 150th anniversary of this little band of people whom Blavatsky drew together. She was trying to show them that there is something else, that we can reach something else, and that when we reach that other, then maybe we will become other. And other not in a bad sense, but in a good sense. We have seen it. That early Theosophists called it the higher self. And I was trying to expostulate about it some in Canada just a while ago. And I don't know whether I should say this or not. I have met people, more than one, who had a unitary experience with their higher self. And they walked down the street and it was like one of the street lamps had gotten loose. And there was a luminary, there was a light walking on the street, right here on Franklin Avenue. You wouldn't expect anything important to happen on Franklin Avenue, now would you? But the thing is, once you encountered someone who has made that contact, may not mean it that they'll make it again. The fall of Lucifer is not an idle legend, but the enlightenment is the union with something higher is. And if you pay attention to it, and even if you have experienced it once with someone, then you will experience it yourself, and you will say, yes, this exists. This is the l'escalier des sages, as the French said it, the stairwell of the sages, the stairwell to the stars. Because we are here, because we are the children of the stars. We are here because we are not of this place, not of this humanity, not of this world, but we are of something else. And to that something else we strive. And until we make effective contact with it, we will always be unsatisfied, we will be always happy. But if we as much as touch it in our heart, our joy, our happiness, our progress, our salvation is assured. And it was that assurance that Blavatsky tried to bring to this world, and that wherever she is, she still does. And to revive that interest among those to whom she brought the message, to that some of our activities at the present time are dedicated. That's why I went to dedicate a little talk in Canada, and if I have any other opportunities, I will do so, because I have seen the light, and I know what it is. There's nothing like it. There is nothing like it. Absolutely nothing like it. It's that which is truly true. It is that which is good and good. It is that which is timeless and eternal, and it is our own ultimate, true, abiding, eternal self. May we reach it, may we reach for it. May it come to us, may we come to it. May our true self, our true glory reach us, and may we remain with it forever. Thank you very much.